Good morning guys, welcome back to Creative Money, and in this video I want to tell you about an investment that could make you possibly 10 times in the next year to 2 years, or however long that takes. This is an opportunity that I think personally has massive upside and a limited downside, and that's why I'm bringing it to you now. I have actually debated whether or not to talk about this, but I do feel like the risk reward is there for myself, and so now I feel like it would be irresponsible not to talk about it, considering it is my personal view. That being said, before we get started, I do want to say that do not take past performance as an indicator of future gains. Do not take my advice literally. As always do your own research, and this is not financial advice. So I guess rather than dragging it out, I'm just going to jump straight into it. It's Bitcoin. And if you're gonna turn off right now because you're already massively against Bitcoin, you don't believe in it, it's a Ponzi, it's a bubble, it's just tulips, it's not based on anything, then fair enough. This video probably isn't for you. But if you're interested in Bitcoin, if you are wondering why I think that it has value and the potential to 10 times from here and possibly even more, or at least accrue some value from here, then stick around and we're going to jump into it. I don't feel like dragging it out and being like giving you all the info and then at the end of it being Bitcoin and you're going to switch off. I'd rather just say that I am going to be talking about Bitcoin right now. I do think it has the potential to 10 times in the next couple of years, and I would feel more irresponsible not saying it than irresponsible by saying it. It's a good thing I'm not investing in English. So in 2008, Bitcoin was created as the answer to the quantitative easing that we started doing during the whole banking crisis and the Great Recession. We just started printing more money to try and solve the world's problems, and what happens when you print more money, that money becomes worth less and less. It leads to high inflation, possibly hyperinflation, and eventually your money has less and less purchasing power. So what is the answer to this? Now, one potential answer that was invented by a person, Satoshi Nakamoto, or potentially a group of people, a consortium, a company, whoever it was, no one knows and may well never know, but it doesn't really matter. What was invented as the answer to it was Bitcoin, which has a limited supply of 21 million coins. That supply goes down every 4 years, during each halving. There are less and less Bitcoins that can be mined, and it becomes increasingly difficult to mine those Bitcoins. So while there's a supply, a cap supply, which gives it scarcity of 21 million, there's actually already 18.5 million in circulation, but those last couple of million will take a long time to actually get out there. So while you've got our current fiat currencies, and in particular the USD, which is currently the reserve currency of the world, being printed more and more, people just creating more USD to answer the world's problems, you also have this scarce hard money, which is Bitcoin. No more can ever be produced, and it's there as an antidote to inflation. Now, people will say at this point, well, okay, that's fine. We also have gold. Gold is also the answer to inflation. If you believe there's going to be massive inflation, then put your money into gold. And right now, I would also agree. I'd say if you're going to have a large portfolio, put some money in gold if you believe there's going to be inflation, because gold is anti-inflationary. It's a store of value and it's a hedge against the rest of your portfolio. If you put some money into gold when all of the markets generally go down, or if you have massive inflation in a country, gold normally goes up. Right, I was just editing and realized I didn't quite round off this point, but what I meant was, if you believe in gold as a hedge, which I do, then why don't you also believe in Bitcoin as a hedge against your hedge? If gold goes up in value in a situation where there's massive hyperinflation, then Bitcoin will also go up, and potentially a lot faster. Most people that believe in gold believe in silver because it will also go up in that scenario, and I think Bitcoin also has that potential. So I hold both, and I would say that would make sense, but I think Bitcoin has a bigger potential for more upside. So he's saying, okay, so inflation, it sounds bad, it sounds like a scary thing. My money's going to become worth less and less, but I've never seen it. It's never happened to me, so why should I be worried about it? Why don't I just continue putting money into the stock market and making more that way, or just continue having savings because I've never experienced high or hyper inflation? And it's true, I've never experienced it in my life. Most people that are, young right now haven't experienced it. If you live in the US or UK or a Western country, you haven't really seen it. But there are countries that have seen it and that are seeing it right now. If you look at Lebanon over the last 6 months, I was fortunate enough to go there back in October. Their currency since October has now dropped 90% in value. What was once worth $1 in Lebanese pounds is now worth 10 cents. If you look at Venezuela, their currency, the bolivar, has essentially become worthless, and people are clambering to either get US dollars to keep their money in US dollars, or another type of asset that beats the inflation that they've had in their own country. And in Lebanon, they're not even allowed. You can't access your bank accounts right now. In Venezuela, you can't access your bank accounts and get to your money that you've saved, even though that savings is now worth less and less. And Bitcoin was created in 2008 because people saw this as a potential that this could happen in other countries and more countries as we move forward. But that was created on the basis of the quantitative easing that was happening then. Well, now what's happening is about tenfold, 100-fold, I'm not even sure, but a lot worse than what happened in 2008. For example, in the last 6 months, we have now given financial stimulus that adds up to 21% of the world's GDP. So we've printed more money and given more money back into to people's pockets. But where does that money come from? Essentially what I'm saying now is, if you're looking at the world and you're looking at what is happening and what we're doing everywhere, these are the perfect market conditions that Bitcoin was created for. So whether or not eventually you believe that someone will crack the Bitcoin code, quantum computing will kill Bitcoin, or whether or not eventually you think that it has no real value other than the value that people put onto it, this is what Bitcoin was created for. This is what it was made for. This is the whole purpose of it, and this is why people believe in it. So my bet isn't really on Bitcoin being the answer and being a new paradigm or new monetary system. It's more that more and more people will begin to believe in it because they're seeing this happen in their home country. If you look at Venezuela, the government has now started accepting payments for driving license and passports in Bitcoin. If you look at other countries around the world that have massive sanctions on them, i.e. North Korea, Iran, they are now putting their money into Bitcoin mining farms because they can't get access to foreign currency. And that's not a perfect use case for it, but that does mean the price will go up, because as more and more currencies fall, as there's more and more inflation in the world, as the world has more riots and has more problems and people are chanting in the streets, defund the police. I mean, how far away is that from defund the banks, which in turn makes Bitcoin the anarchist's currency or the new paradigm, whatever you want to call it. It makes it more popular and a more feasible answer to the current way the world works. And if you're growing up now, and if you're looking at the world and you're trying to think, what could I buy that potentially has some value for me in the future? I don't trust the banks. My government took all my money and I don't know where to put it. Well, this is where the belief in Bitcoin comes from. Now, they say that for a money to really work, you need to have an army behind it. Well, Bitcoin now has that as well. It's got hundreds of thousands of people around the world that believe in it. I think today, 810,000 people around the world now have over 1 Bitcoin in their wallet. So look, I don't think that Bitcoin is going to replace money. I don't think it's going to become a usable currency. I don't think any of that. But I do think that in the short term, it will go up in value. It's got a great story. People believe in it. It's possibly the world's strongest brand that has no company, no person behind it, yet everyone's heard of it, and it's attracted over $200 billion of investment. So, I mean, whether or not it eventually works, I think kind of is besides the point. Right now, it's a hard money that is the digital equivalent of gold. And so if people believe in gold and people believe in a hedge against inflation, they believe in Bitcoin. And right now it seems to be an early opportunity to get into that. Now, like I said, it's all risk reward for me. This is a zero-sum bet. I completely understand that it could eventually go to zero. I could lose everything I put into it, and there's, as with any investment or anything, that there's always the risk of losing all your money. And I would completely emphasize that to anyone. I just personally, from everything I've looked at, and I'll include resources below, I'm actually probably going to make some more videos about this so I can better articulate my thoughts, but I do think there is more of a potential for upside than there is for massive downside right now. Even in March, where you had the biggest crash in a long time of all financial markets, Bitcoin only went down to about $4,000. Right now it's back to about 9,000. So I mean, that's not as bad as a lot of stocks. It still held a lot of value. Even at the bottom, a lot of people didn't sell because they still believe in it. So I mean, for it to go below $4,000, I don't know what scenario that would be personally. So for me, I see that as the downside. Maybe I'll lose 50%, maybe I'll lose 100%, but I see there being a much bigger potential for upside. Now, where did I get the 10 times from? That's not me. That is the stock to flow model from Plan B, which again, I will link below. I'm not going to go into explaining it in depth, one, because I don't think I can accurately do justice to it when the video below will be a lot more helpful. But essentially, it's tracking the price after each halving, which happens every 4 years, and extrapolating that out to see what the price could be by December 2021. So look, I'll say again that I am not putting everything into Bitcoin. I'm not putting all my money into cryptocurrency, and I would obviously say that would be a bad decision for anyone. But as a potential hedge and as a potential investment that could do well, then I think it's an option. I personally don't have the bias against Bitcoin that a lot of people seem to. And I know it is a very divisive, controversial thing, but I think it's becoming more accessible all the time. The on-ramps are getting easier all the time, and there's great apps that you can just buy straight from your debit card. For myself, I've just used crypto.com for the past couple of weeks. I only really found out about it about a month ago. Before that, I was just doing it via Bitstamp, which was a lot clunkier. But for crypto.com, it's an app on your phone, really easy. Buy it off your debit card, and then you've got it in your wallet. And even at that point, you can start earning 4% interest per year on your Bitcoin that you hold in the crypto.com wallet. So if it goes up in value, you also make an additional 4%. If it doesn't go up in value, you make 4%. So I mean, that's a useful addition to it, because I don't know any savings accounts that you can make 4% on. Of course, it is very volatile. The price can go up and down, so you need to stomach that. But I'm looking at this for the long term. I wouldn't ever personally look at putting money into Bitcoin to try and take it out in a couple months' time, because the price could be all over the place. But if you take a longer term view of it, which I have done, then I think it just makes sense. Again, not financial advice. But if you are interested in the crypto.com app, then I include a link below. And if anyone does decide to get involved with that, then you get $50 and I get $50 as well. It's actually a really good win-win scheme. Like I think anyone that signs up and stakes within the crypto.com app, you get $50 completely for free in their own token, and so do I. It's an easy way to get Bitcoin. So I just finished by saying these are the market conditions that Bitcoin was built for. If it's not going to happen now, then it's probably never going to happen. So for myself, it seems like a good time to start, as they say, stacking sats. Start getting involved with it and just seeing what plays out. Thanks for watching. I hope that was interesting, at least. I hope it made a lot of sense. And if you are interested, if you're involved, if you're not interested, let me know in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer any questions there. For now, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.